Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center webinar series. Today's topic is Marketing Mindset 101. I am Jonathan Howdyshell, one of the business counselors for the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and I will be your moderator today. Our speaker today is Donna Bliss. She is a dynamic and engaging social entrepreneur who utilizes her extensive business and social work background to help nonprofit organizations and business entrepreneurs thrive by focusing on imaginative approaches to marketing, program development, and resource revenue development. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com and type in Wyoming Women's Business Center. Make sure you subscribe and check out our other videos. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the chat area and I will ask them for you. Now, without further ado, I present to you Donna Bliss.
Thanks, Jonathan, and hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very appreciative of the Wyoming Women's Business Center for sponsoring this webinar, and I think for all the really good work that it does for everybody in the state of Wyoming. I wanted to talk to you today about the notion of what marketing really is and how business entrepreneurs and nonprofit organizations can use a marketing mindset to really help take your organization or business to the next level. I think it's helpful to have a little bit of an understanding of my background. I come from a very entrepreneurial family. I was very business-oriented in my early adult life in sales and marketing. And later in life, in my 30s, I went back to school and I got a degree and ended up working in the addictions field for many years as a social worker. And went back to school and got a PhD in social work in 2005, and so I've been in higher education ever since then. But I've always had a marketing approach, even with the work I do in higher education. I think I'm a social entrepreneur because I like serving social missions. But I also know for nonprofits and small business owners, you know, one of the challenges is how do you get ahead of the curve? You're sort of living hand to mouth and hoping that you can get funding somehow. And I think there's a much more proactive approach to marketing that we can use, and they're the same principles that bigger companies and bigger nonprofits use successfully too. So today I want to go over them. Some of them will seem pretty commonsensical to folks, but I think the power of them is actually in utilizing them. So one of the things I want to do with this webinar is give you some tools that you can use and some specific things that you can start doing today to really help take your business or nonprofit to the next level. So those are really my two objectives. We really have to rethink how we operate. I think sometimes if you're a small business person or a small nonprofit, we have this belief that the kind of resources we need aren't available to us. So I want to talk about how marketing mindset can help us access those kind of resources so that we can grow. So when we think about resources, nonprofits and businesses need lots of them. There's tangible resources. We need funding. We need sales, clients, customers. We need staff members or employees, board members, volunteers. We need an infrastructure, a storefront or a building or a website. So tangible resources, most people understand, they're the things that we need to be able to do the business that we want to do. But we also need intangible resources, political support. Let's say that you're a nonprofit and you're working with a population that people don't understand and where funding sources may not want to fund you anymore. It's very helpful to have political and social support that is behind you so that you can continue to get funding so you can serve your mission. I know one of the most important resources for nonprofits is the sense of making a difference. I've worked in addictions, and a lot of times you can feel that all the hard work doesn't really amount to anything. And I think having the hope that what you're doing does serve other people is very helpful. Businesses need a hope of sustainability. Business is challenging. It's not easy, especially in today's dynamic marketplace, to be successful and grow. So even as a small business owner, you need a sense of hope that you can sustain yourself and grow. This is particularly true if you're relying on a business for your livelihood. So how do we access those resources? Well, there's lots of ways. We can sell products and services. We may provide counseling services. We might write grants, do fundraising. We can charge for services. If you're a business owner, you might charge for products. We recruit employees. We recruit volunteers. We buy supplies we need. We rely on donations. We build systems. We create. So there's a lot of activities that I think we take for granted that we actually do to help us to access these resources that we need. So let me talk a little bit about marketing. One of the things that I found when you talk of marketing, people often think of the word selling. And selling is really nothing more than exchanging something, a product or a service, in exchange for money. While marketing is really, to me at least, it's about a process that entails satisfying certain needs of clients or customers through an exchange process. So if you're a business owner and you say, well, but I'm selling pieces of art, is there anything wrong with that? The answer is no. But I think with marketing, we want to think more that it's just not us trying to get somebody to give us money for something we're going to give them. Marketing is much more focused on the relationship between those parties. So one of the things to think about is how your business or your organization's mission statement sort of addresses the needs that people are going to have, why they should do business with you, why they should come and get services from you, why they should volunteer. So a marketing mindset is really thinking about a relationship that is based more on win-win. And I think this distinction is pretty important. I don't know how many of you have, let's say you work at a nonprofit and every year you have a fundraising campaign and you're hitting up your friends to buy tickets and you sort of cringe because you know they don't really want to do it and you kind of hate selling that to them. The same is true with business owners. A lot of really successful business people don't care for selling. So there's a lot of distaste sometimes for the notion of selling because I think there's a feeling that we're trying to get people to give us something that we want, which is money, for something they really might not want, such as buying tickets or buying a new car or buying something. And I think this notion of selling really creates a disconnect in the relationships we want to have with people. So I'm going to invite everybody to abandon the notion of selling. I was in sales a long time ago, and I actually did not like selling because I always felt like I was trying to get an order from somebody and trying to find some way to say or do something in a manner where they would place an order. I like the idea of marketing better because it really implies a more level playing field where both of us benefit from an exchange relationship. So why is this important? Well, I think when you have a very narrow view of marketing, where you're focused on just trying to get something you want from somebody, in this case money, you actually constrain the flow of resources that can come into your organization or your business. Now, certainly money is an important resource, and I don't want to minimize that. But all the money in the world doesn't buy you political support. It doesn't necessarily get you all the customers you want. So money has its place in what we have to do to be successful, but we really need to expand our horizons. And how we think about marketing is that we want referral sources. We want new suppliers. Let's say, for example, you're a business owner and you're selling certain kinds of products. And you realize that you're competing with online sellers and you can't compete with them on price. Well, one of the resources you need are alternative products that you may be able to use so that you're not competing directly with, say, something like Amazon.com. So marketing is really opening and expanding our point of view about how we want to bring in lots of kind of resources that we need to be successful, and money is just one of those resources. So that means we need to shift our perspective that marketing is not about emphasizing what we want to get from somebody. It really is thinking about a win-win relationship. And this is actually, I think, very, very important, where we need to understand the needs of our various markets and reciprocate, meet those needs, and they'll reciprocate by providing us resources. So let's think about this. If you're in the hospitality industry, let's say you're a 4- or 5-star hotel, you do a lot of research on your markets. Maybe it's business people. Or if you're a boutique hotel, it may be younger persons like millennials that really want something more upscale and unusual. So you understand that if you meet their needs first, they are more likely to come and do business with you, which is giving you money so that you can stay in business. So this whole idea of marketing is really based on a reciprocal process, but it's really contingent on us understanding our markets, what their needs are, and meeting their needs first, not trying to get them to buy something from us. So the presentation today is really going to focus more on how do we really start to do that. So when you think of your markets, you think about people that care about you. They could be current customers, suppliers, clients. If you're a nonprofit, it could be referral sources, potential clients. It may be customers that haven't done business with you for a while. It could be funding sources. It could be donors. It could be, if you're, say, a nonprofit owner, it could be people in the business community in your town that support what you do. So there's lots of needs that these markets will have, and we need to learn about those needs so that we can try to meet them. And in meeting those, that helps to facilitate this exchange relationship where we then receive resources that's including money, but it's not just limited to that. And I think it's important to understand why this is so powerful. Social exchange theory talks about how we are more likely to engage in a relationship when we experience getting more than we give. Actually, it's the basis on which how we survive as a species. We do have to rely on each other to survive. So think about your own relationships. It may be a friend, a loved one, a romantic relationship. And think of how many times when things are tough and you feel that you don't want to be in this relationship anymore. You've just had it. But then you think about all the good times, the investment you made, and without realizing it, you're balancing in your mind, the costs and benefits of staying in the relationship. So social exchange theory would say, even though at that moment you may not want to be in the relationship anymore, you may think about all that you've invested, the hope that it can get better, and therefore continue in the relationship. The other side is true. You may get to a point where the balance tips the other way, and you just realize the relationship is not worth it, it's too much of a problem, and you choose to end it. So this whole notion of social exchange theory is that we want to be mindful of how we are creating an environment where people want to do business with us, that they value that, that's something worthwhile to them. And the only way I know how to do that is by meeting their needs. It's not with slick marketing campaigns. It's not with fancy websites. All those things are tools. It is really about meeting the needs of our markets so that they'll want to continue to do business with them. I really value nonprofits and business entrepreneurs because that's my background. So one of the things I do to try to meet their needs, to engage in exchange relationship, to promote my business, is do things like this webinar or presentations in the community, because I realize for a lot of small business people and nonprofits, they don't have the resources to access, very expensive marketing organizations and corporations. So from my point of view, I have a certain kind of market I'm looking for, smaller nonprofits, smaller business owners, and I've learned about what their needs are, and my role is to try to meet their needs, in this case to get their business. So I'm not going out there and trying to land a big marketing contract from a large corporation, because that really isn't one of my markets, and I don't feel that I'm capable of meeting their needs. So let's think about the kinds of needs that our markets can have. If you're a nonprofit, people need to feel compassion. They need to feel that there's hope. They need information. They need services. People need peace of mind, accountability, social justice. People may need sustenance. Let's say that you own a small grocery store. People need to eat food. So people have lots of intangible and tangible needs. But I will tell you something. In the marketplace, we are competing quite a bit with other organizations that provide tangible needs. Using whatever product now we're selling, people can get online, which has been made it very difficult for small business owners because they have to compete on the basis of service because they can't compete on price. So one of the things that we need to think about even more is intangible needs. These are value-based. I like buying from small businesses. I do like saving money, and I'm always sort of susceptible to think, well, if I go to a big box retailer, I can save a few dollars over buying something similar from a local business owner. But I also have a soft need, a caring need about supporting communities so they're sustainable. I remember I was living in Athens, Georgia, and I had bought a new house. This was about 10 years ago. And I was going to buy patio furniture. And there was a local garden center that sold some really nice patio furniture that was pretty pricey. It was very nice, but it was pricey. Then I went, I think it was either to Home Depot or Lowe's, I don't remember, and I looked at their patio furniture, and it was much less expensive than the local business. I don't think the quality was good, and I remembered wrestling with thinking, well, if I buy from Home Depot, I can save money and I can buy something else. And then I thought, but if I really cared about supporting a local business, then I would put my money where my mouth is, and I would invest the extra money by buying a service from somebody in our community that owned the business and had a stake in our community. And I don't want to sound virtuous because I did wrestle with it, but I did do that. And I kind of cringed and I thought, oh my God, I spent hundreds of dollars more than I had to. Well, I'm here to tell you that investment in a local community and business, it didn't bankrupt me. I was still okay. But so for me, one of the values is trying to support communities so they can be sustainable. So we really want to understand what the hard, which is tangible, and soft, which is more intangible or value-based needs are that all of our markets have, because our role is to then meet those needs. So think about this then. Why is this shift to a marketing mindset so important? Well, one hypothesis holds that we're all interconnected and that we're really only separated by 6 degrees of separation, which means it's not just me understanding what you might need, say if you're a customer of mine, but you may know somebody else that knows other people, and by meeting your needs, I end up setting up a chain of events where other people may want to do business with me. You know, we talk a lot about word-of-mouth advertising, and I think if you do online business and people are reviewing you online, you realize how important it is how other people see you, not just the people that you're doing business with. So from a marketing point of view, I believe that the more I know the needs of my primary markets, the more connected they are to other people, where I can end up getting in resources, say it's donations, new customers, new opportunities, from people that I may not ever know. So this is a way, even as a small business owner, of expanding my horizons much farther than I ever would have thought possible. So that means we have to think about anytime we meet somebody, whether it's a customer coming in our store, or let's say that you're going to a community function, let's say it's a fundraiser, and you're the executive director of a nonprofit, and of course you're always looking for donations, and you go there and you see somebody and you talk with them about your organization, and you think, well, they're probably not going to have enough money to support me. You really have no way of knowing that they may be the conduit to a gold mine of resources. I work in social work, and there's this mindset that fundraising for schools of social work is hard because social workers don't have any money. And I've heard that stated so many times, and I can't tell you how that makes me cringe. First of all, I know that social workers don't tend to make a lot of money in their careers, but I know nothing of their circumstances. We may have a graduate that is out in the world of work. She may not be making a lot of money, but she may have a father or an uncle who has a .com company and he's very successful. And because he loves that person, and she's just talking about how much she loved getting her social work degree, that this guy writes a check and sends it to us, and we don't even know who that is. I will tell you, I know that works. When I was at the University of Georgia, we had, in addition to our social work programs, a management of nonprofit program, and I taught in that. Well, we had somebody who graduated from that. They came from a rather well-to-do family, and they were thrilled that she was thrilled about the education she got. And they made a donation of over $100,000 to the Management of Nonprofit Organizations program. That was a huge deal, but it came from somebody that we didn't know, but by virtue of their connection to a graduate who valued her education, we opened ourselves up to getting a really nice large resource that really was then used to help grow the program. So the mindset about opening ourselves up more means that we never know who we're going to meet. We really never know how they might be able to help us. At minimum, they might be somebody that can pass our name on, or they just have good feelings about us. But I just think it's important to have a mindset that the world is much bigger now, especially with how we're able to connect with each other digitally. And I want to create this sort of idea that we can create pathways to bring lots of these kind of serendipitous resources coming into our lives, so that when somebody writes a check out of the blue and gives it to our nonprofit, we just start to realize that that's happening more and more because we're creating, using a marketing mindset, the pathways for this to happen. So this is a big point of what I want this webinar to do, to help you to start to think about how you can start doing that for your own business or your nonprofit. So let's think about it then. Instead of selling where I'm trying to get something from you to get what I want, which is money, marketing is about me taking an action, so it's very proactive, in order to receive this potentially unlimited resources. So it's a very different kind of approach. It's much more receptive. It's not that we're not going to try to have fundraising campaigns. It isn't that we're not going out there and trying to sell a product or a service. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is about opening up and creating this sort of mindset where we want to be open to receive more and more resources. More and more resources may be more money. It may be a new volunteer. It may be somebody getting referred to our nonprofit that we never heard about. It may be a check coming out of the blue. I'm going to tell you, as an educator, I read the Chronicle of Higher Education, and time again, there's stories of a university getting a multi-million-dollar check from somebody that died, and they didn't know this person. And the person may have not even had a direct connection with their college. They may have had a loved one that went there. And so here out of the blue, they get this large donation that, of course, they can use to benefit their students. My philosophy is, why don't we try to position ourselves in the marketplace to let more and more of those kind of things happen for us? So there's really 3 tools to be able to do that. And these are going to seem very elementary, but tools, think about in the physical world, hammers, screwdrivers, pliers, saws. They're all very basic. They're all very fundamental. But if we use them in optimal ways, we can do amazing things. So one of the things I hope that you will get from the presentation today is how to rethink how you use these tools, because I think they can help us to really embrace a marketing mindset and really help to grow our business and our organization. Okay, so let's talk about an elevator speech. The idea of it is in 30 seconds, you're supposed to clearly articulate what your business or organization's mission is, what you're about, what is your reason for being. I think really you need 8 to 10 seconds, which is a chunk. It's a soundbite. So when you meet somebody and you say, they say, what do you do? And I say, well, I direct a treatment program for people with substance abuse programs. Well, that's a very technical explanation of what we do. Or you might say, well, I sell floral arrangements. Again, that's a very technical kind of explanation of what you do. But one of the things I've found is that people respond more when we talk in a way that emphasizes how we meet needs. You all are exposed to this all the time when you watch commercials on TV. Think about the last time you saw a commercial for a car. It usually shows somebody driving on country roads or these kind of very interesting landscapes. They're speeding around. There's exciting music, and it's trying to create this vibe that if you drive this particular car, you will be exciting, cool, sexy, whatever. Notice those commercials rarely talk about the car. They don't talk about the gas mileage. They don't talk a lot about features. They really are emphasizing needs. So the needs are your soft needs. They want you to feel important, popular, hip, sexy, cool. And so they're associating in their advertisement, you will feel those feelings if you buy their product. There's an old saying that sex sells. Well, that's because it does. Think of how many commercials where what's implied is if you buy a particular product, a certain kind of liquor, a certain kind of skincare product or hair care product or clothing, that other people will find you attractive. So what happens on a very basic level, people associate the product or the service with this need. Now, I'm here to tell you, I have bought some of those products or services, and I've never been transformed into the person that they showed on the commercial. But the point being is that we want to think about how we're talking, that we're really about meeting needs. So, for example, I can say that Dynamic Consulting Services provides various kinds of services to help businesses and nonprofits, including marketing, program development, so on and so forth. That's kind of a technical explanation. A more needs-based information is that we provide personalized and affordable services to business entrepreneurs and nonprofit organizations to help you thrive. If you compare the first and the second is much richer in needs. It's really stated to appeal to wanting you to feel valuable, wanting you to feel that you can sustain yourself, wanting you to feel that somebody's on your side. I think the power of an elevator speech that really resonates with soft needs is predicated, though, on that this has to be genuine. It isn't just sort of a catchy thing that you say. Again, if you watch TV commercials, and I love watching them, they usually pitch something where if you buy a product or service, your family's all together, you all feel loved, the community's wonderful, as if you buy this product or service, it's going to make that happen. I'm here to tell you, in the corporate world, the guys in the blue suits that are coming up with these advertising campaigns really don't care about your family or self-esteem. They're trying to appeal to your feelings to get you to buy their product or service. In our case, we need to really be genuine about it. I have to really care about my clientele. I can't just see them as a source of money. So in doing this and having an elevator speech that really resonates with that, it really helps from the get-go facilitate this exchange relationship. So elevator speech is tool number one. Tool number two is business cards. Most people have them. We take them for granted. A business card is actually incredibly important. I don't know if you've ever been to a dinner or some sort of event and you're talking to somebody about their line of work and you ask them if they have a business card and they say, no, or I ran out. And so they grab a cocktail napkin and they write down their contact information on the cocktail napkin. I'm going to bet you that I know exactly what you're going to do with that cocktail napkin when you get home. You're probably going to throw it away. But if it's a business card, there's something tangible about that. And instead of throwing it away, it usually gets put somewhere on a desk or a countertop, and maybe you don't act on it now, but it's there. So a business card has to be a way that sort of follows up the impression you made with your elevator speech. It has to have, obviously, your contact information. It needs to have a website. It doesn't have to be super fancy, but it has to be sort of a tool to help people sort of come back and connect with you, either directly through email or phone or through a website or social media, so that exchange relationship can be facilitated. Okay. Step 3 is a website. It is amazing to me how many small business people and nonprofits assume in today's world that they can survive without a website. Maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when e-commerce was really starting to develop and websites seemed to be this fancy tool that certain businesses can use. In today's world, you need a website just as much as you need a telephone and other kinds of technology and resources. A website is a virtual storefront to the world. Think about it. It's only been in the last 20 years that the internet has grown. You can be a small business owner and you can have a storefront that anybody in the world can access. So a website does that. A website is not an electronic brochure. It is really this opportunity for you to broadcast to your markets how you can meet their needs and how they can engage in an exchange relationship with you, in this case via the website, to meet their needs. Time and time and time again, we're seeing that people, and especially younger people like millennials, they are much more likely to do research about buying decisions by using Google search, things of that nature, and using websites. They're not going to call you on the phone. They may not go to your business, but they will go to a website, and if they can't find what they're looking for, which means that their needs aren't being met, then they're done. And so my point of view is we now have to imagine that it's not how many people physically come into our store, or it's not how many clients actually come into our nonprofit. We have to visualize that in the whole wide world, via our website and social media, there is an immense number of people that may be engaging with us that we don't know about, but we want to be mindful and invite them in so they engage us through the website, and if they like something, either order it online, or maybe they come to our store, maybe they pick up the phone, or then maybe they send us an email. So you want to think of this funnel. It's called a buying funnel or a decision funnel. It's very broad at the top. And so as people are accessing that, they're starting to get information they want. Is this a good school for me to go to? Do you have the kind of product or services I want? What are your store hours? And so that funnel starts to narrow. And the more narrow it becomes, people are going to make a decision to engage in some action. Maybe they'll order a product. Maybe they'll call you up to find your business hours. Maybe they'll come in your shop. If you're a nonprofit, maybe they will call you up to see if they can get admitted to your program. Maybe they'll write you a check. Maybe they're not ready to make a decision yet, but you're helping to filter them in so they can engage in that exchange relationship with you. I understand that creating websites is challenging. About 9 years ago, I set about trying to learn how to do it. I can tell you it's not intuitive. It was like learning a second language. I know lots of nonprofits have websites that are stale and out of date. That's worse than having no website. I liken it to having a bakery. I mean, quite frankly, the day you put out fresh pastries, people love it. But if you don't put out fresh pastries every day and they're stale, people aren't going to come back. And so one of the problems with small businesses or nonprofits that don't think they can afford a website, they tend to have something up there just to have it, but it tends to be stale. It's not content rich. And in today's marketplace, there's a lot of resources and research that says best practices involve having a website that is content rich, that meets the needs of your markets so that they can do business with you. And I think in today's world, you need to have a website just like you need to have a telephone. It doesn't have to be super expensive to maintain. You can do things that are scaled to you, but it's so incredibly important to do that. So those three tools are very, very important. So you might be thinking, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. I like the idea of that. What is the next step? What is it I do? So here's some tangible things. First and foremost, it's not to get all excited and think about, okay, the last email blast you did was 3 months ago, or this you're going to send out another flyer, and you really are determined you're going to do it every month, even though somehow it gets lost in the shuffle. The first thing you need to do is your marketing homework. This is not exciting. This is the foundation that you want to build on. I liken it to building a home. When people are building a house, they don't think about the foundation. They think about the window treatment, the kinds of furniture they want, all those exciting things. If you don't do your marketing research, then you really are never going to be able to articulate how you meet the needs of those markets. And so the facilitating the exchange relationship where you meet those needs and they reciprocate by giving you the resources you need, such as money, will never happen. I've worked with a lot of nonprofits and business people, and one of the first things I ask them is, do you know who your primary markets are and what their soft and hard needs are? And it's amazing to me how often they don't really understand that. So we need to know that. Primary markets are the people. Think of them as a group or a demographic that have a vested interest in you. When I ran substance abuse treatment programs, they were current clients, prospective clients, referral sources. They may have been our funders. They may be clients that graduated. They may be people in the community that support substance abuse treatment. All of those have a stake in my organization being successful. They all have different hard and soft needs. A prospective client may have a hard need of, how do I access your program? What is the eligibility criteria? What do I have to do to talk to somebody? But it's the soft needs, the value needs are important. Will this make a difference? Is there really hope for me? Will this work out? Will I like eating in your restaurant? So we want to do our homework first. There's ways to do that. One is just by thinking about what we know, but the other is really talking to people. Let's say that you're a business owner and you have customers that come in fairly regularly, and let's say they buy artwork or crafts that you're selling. Have you ever asked them, why do they come back? They may say, well, I like your art, and they like having the art. Let's say it's really beautiful photographs. Well, that's a service or products. That's a hard need. But in talking to them, you might realize they like being exposed to creative energy. And there's something about the interior of your shop that gives this feeling to them they like. They might be responding much more to a soft need as a reason to come back rather than just looking at your artwork. I'll give you a great example. I don't know how many of you have ever been to Whole Foods or a store like that. Their reputation is they're pretty pricey, but there's something about the energy that when you go into that place that it makes you want to be there. It has such a feeling of well-being. Well, I can go grocery shopping in many, many places. But when I was living in Georgia, we had something like a Whole Foods. And time again, I would go to Whole Foods because I liked that feeling of well-being. It felt like I was taking care of myself, which is an important soft need I have. It wasn't the hard need if I wanted to buy products or services. There's plenty of mainstream grocers like Kroger, Safeway, Ridley's, Albertsons that sell organic products as well. But soft needs are very, very important. So talk to people about it. Talk to them why they chose to come to you and then something else. And start writing this down. What happens, you start creating what's called the buyer persona. You see this a lot in politics. Um, right now you see, I know there was a Republican primary yesterday, and they talk about, well, this candidate was going after this demographic, people that are younger from more metropolitan areas. People for this candidate tend to be older. Um, there's the old saying of like the soccer mom or the millennials. Those are generalizations, but they really are valuable for marketing because they say that there's certain groups of people that have things in common. So we want to have an idea, what are typical customers like? Are they all the same? So that when we start putting out ways to meet their needs, we can appeal to as many as possible. So this whole slide here is really the number one thing you have to do. And it's really important to not do this in your head. It's easy to say, well, yes, and I can think of my markets and I know what the hard and soft needs are. But when you have it in your head, it's just a thought. And thoughts go in and out of our head all the time. When you put it on paper, it changes the meaning of it to you. It now becomes something real and something tangible. The first time I did this was back when I was running treatment programs, and our census had been low, and I thought we need to really get more clientele, otherwise we're going to not be able to stay open. And I started doing this marketing research. And one of the things that I realized is that we weren't really reaching out to referral sources. And so I did some investigation, some homework, to find out what the needs are of referral sources were. In this case, it was more of a hard need. They needed to know who was the person they could contact if they had questions about how to refer clients to our program. And it was amazing. By doing that little bit of marketing research, by writing it down, I started meeting with some of these referral sources, and all of a sudden, our census was way up. So you really want to write it down. I can't tell you how important that is. And if you're a small business owner and you're a small nonprofit and you're listening to me thinking, well, that sounds really nice. She's talking about websites and this and that, but I can't afford it. One, I think you can't afford not to, but you can afford to do basic marketing research. Just that act will help you to feel like you're getting the energy moving, and then you want to keep it moving to help grow your business or your nonprofit. So another thing to think about is how you're connected to all these markets. So one of the things that's helpful, again, is to write down your organization or your business and start thinking about all the various markets you have. These are the people that have a vested interest in you. They could be providers, suppliers of information. They could be referral sources, donors, clients, people in the community. I know if you're a small business person in a small town, one of your primary markets are other business owners. Certainly one of the things we know from research that vibrant downtowns and smaller communities benefit everybody. So you might be, let's say you have a small bookstore in a small town in Wyoming, and you might not really stop and think about it, but all the other business owners in your town, they're a primary market. Not so much that they're going to come and buy a book from you or they're going to refer people to you, but all of you have a vested interest in maximizing the economic well-being of your community, which means you need to understand what are some of the hard and soft needs of the person that has a nail salon, or they have an art gallery, or they're a realtor in your town. Just because you own a bookshop doesn't mean that you're still not marketing to them, because when they benefit, the town benefits. I think this is actually really, really important. So I would encourage you, after you start writing down your primary markets and their hard and soft needs, sketch out this kind of diagram. You'll be amazed with how many markets you have that you really don't know about and that you really haven't reached out to. So this can expand your horizons and help you to feel more proactive in marketing your business or your organization. So what happens? You start to grow. I've always liked reading stories about successful business people and how somebody starts off, an entrepreneur starts off with an idea. Maybe they work out of their garage or basement, and it starts to grow, and it becomes this very big company. Now, you may not want to be a big corporation or something, or maybe you do, but the notion of marketing is that we can create the potential to have as much growth as we want if we're willing to do our homework and do the work. So, develop your marketing plan. Write down who are your target markets, what are their hard and soft needs. How does your marketing effort speak to those needs? Content in flyers, in email blasts, and websites should be all about meeting needs, the hard and soft needs of them. You're actually in the needs meeting business. Think about what you want to accomplish. Why should these people care about your business and organization? Because you want them to care about you. You want them to come and buy from you. Let's say you're a realtor and there's other realtors in town. You want them to value something about what you bring to the table. Everybody else can access the multiple listing system, but you're the one that gives that special hands-on service that they like. So you want to think about how you differentiate yourself in the marketplace, what your niche is, why you're so special, and why, even though you may be selling a product or service that others have, there's something special about you so that they'll do business with you. What strategies are most likely to succeed? So think about relationships. In my consulting work, I provide services that many, many other people and organizations can do. There's lots of people out there that do great marketing. They do web design, program development. You can find them all the time. I can't compete with them straight up, so I focus on my own niche, which is the providing of personalized and affordable services, especially for smaller business owners and nonprofits, because I relate to them. So I've differentiated myself in the marketplace to find a place where I can get a foothold and that I can grow. So then with your marketing plan, you think about, what kind of resources do you need? Do you need more personnel, money, time? When, with your marketing strategy, when do you plan to start? For dynamic consulting, I do a monthly email newsletter. I use Constant Contact, which I find is very helpful. It goes out the second Monday of every month at 6 a.m. Because one of the things that's important in any marketing campaign is to be sustainable. It isn't enough to get all excited, or let's say you're a nonprofit and you get an intern and they come in and they redo your website, but you don't have a process to sustain that. It gets stale. So we can start really small. You don't have to invest lots and lots of money to do this, but you do need to make an investment and you need to sustain it so that it can grow over time. So then you evaluate the effectiveness of your strategy. Are you seeing more visitors to your website? Do you track how many customers come into your store? Obviously, if you're selling a product, you can look at what your daily sales are. But if you're looking at digital resources, looking at how many new visitors and returning visitors come to your website is important. A returning visitor indicates somebody that knows what you have, and they're coming back and revisit you for a reason. So it's like having your businesses open 24/7, and so the website needs to help them make a decision to go to the next step to do business with you. So you evaluate that. What are the metrics that you use? Again, for websites, I use the visitors. One of the things I've done service-wise is create websites that promote substance abuse recovery in communities in Wyoming. I do with students, we have recoverylaramie.org. Last year we did recoveryriverton.org. You can certainly promote that to your community. I'm still very much a proponent of people recovering from these problems. But one of the ways I evaluate, is it doing any good, is that I look at returning visitors. Every now and then I'll get a phone call from somebody thanking me for the website. But my way of evaluating whether it's helping is that if I'm getting returning visitors to the website, then at least it has the potential to go out there into the community and help people. So a marketing plan is very dynamic. We have to commit to it. We have to sustain it. But I really encourage small business people and nonprofits that may believe they don't have enough money or they're kind of afraid of what this means is start small. Do something manageable. The same principles and tools that multi-billion-dollar corporations use or that large nonprofits use successfully, you can use too. It's just amazing how we can use these resources that 15 years ago weren't available to us. So the notion you don't have enough money or don't have enough time is really a notion that you have to abandon and start to really incorporate this more in the mindset of what you do to try to help grow your business or your nonprofit. So I think we're going to have some time for questions. This is obviously my website. If you want to contact me, I have my contact information there. If you want me to send you a copy of the PowerPoint, I know that you'll be able to listen to the webinar on YouTube. But if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, if you send me an email to dbliss at dynamicconsultingservices.com, I'm happy to help you. Again, I want to thank the Wyoming Women's Business Center for sponsoring this. I think these are resources that I think are very valuable to the community. I'm a big proponent of economic development, even though I'm a social worker. I think healthy people means healthy families, healthy communities. People come to your business, they spend money, employees are more stable. I think it's a win-win situation, and I certainly want to do what I can to help really promote, I think, the fabulous work that the Wyoming Women's Business Center does.